So you're living in that hybrid cloud world, right? You've got data on-prem, you've got the power of the cloud, but how do you get them to talk to each other? Well, that's the big question. And today we're going to look at two really different ways to answer it, one from AWS and one from Azure.
All right, so here's the game plan. First, we'll talk about the why, the whole on-prem to cloud challenge. Then we'll meet our two players, AWS Storage Gateway, which I like to call the Translator, and Azure Storage Mover, the Mover. We'll look at their architectures side by side and then finish up with what they're really good at and their core philosophies.
Okay, first up, the on-prem to cloud challenge. Before we even look at the fancy tools, let's just get on the same page about the problem they're trying to solve. I mean, why does this whole category of hybrid storage even exist in the first place?
And this quote just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? It's so true. For pretty much any established company, moving to the cloud is a journey, not a light switch. That data in your own data centers, well, it has history, it has gravity, and it's not going anywhere overnight.
But you know, the real kicker isn't just about location. It's that most businesses are what you'd call latency bound. Think about it. Your local applications, they need to grab data fast. They can't wait for a round trip to a cloud data center hundreds of miles away. And that right there, that's the fundamental tug-of-war that these hybrid tools are built to solve.
All right, let's bring in our first contender, AWS Storage Gateway, the Translator. This is how AWS approaches that whole latency problem, and it's a really interesting take on bridging that gap between on-prem and the cloud.
So what is it? At its core, AWS Storage Gateway is meant to be a permanent, always-on bridge. The whole idea is to make cloud storage feel like it's sitting right there in your data center. It gives your existing apps access to what seems like a bottomless pit of storage, and the best part is, you don't have to rewrite a single line of code. And this is the perfect way to think about it. It's a translator. It's like having a universal translator for your storage. Your old-school applications on-prem can keep speaking their native languages, things like NFS, S&B, iSCSI, and the gateway just fluently translates all of that into the language of the cloud. It's brilliant, really.
So, how does it do all this? Well, it actually has 4 different personalities you can choose from. Each one is built for a specific job. You've got the S3 File Gateway, which makes cloud storage look just like a regular file share. Then there's the FSx File Gateway for your high-performance Windows workloads. The Volume Gateway gives your servers block storage that's secretly backed by the cloud. And get this, the Tape Gateway lets you finally ditch those old physical tapes for virtual ones in the cloud. Super clever.
Okay, let's pivot and talk about Azure's approach. This is Azure Storage Mover, or the Mover. And you'll see pretty quickly that they're coming at this whole hybrid problem from a totally different angle.
The name really says it all here. The key word is Mover. It's all about migration. So where the AWS service is like building a permanent bridge, Azure Storage Mover is more like hiring a professional moving company. Its main job is to get your stuff from point A, your data center, to point B, the Azure cloud.
And the whole process is super straightforward, very job-focused. It's basically 3 steps. 1, you pop a little virtual machine agent down near your data. 2, you hop into the Azure portal and tell it what you want to move. And 3, you hit go, and the agent just takes care of the rest, efficiently transferring all your files and metadata straight into Azure. Simple as that.
So we have these two really different philosophies, right? The bridge versus the mover. Let's look at how that actually plays out in the architecture. This is where you can really see how different these two services are under the hood.
Okay, this table breaks it down perfectly. Look at the core function. AWS is all about ongoing, low-latency access. Azure, it's a one-way, managed migration. And the architecture reflects that. AWS gives you this permanent on-prem appliance that's always running, caching data locally. But with Azure, you just spin up an agent for a specific job, and it's a one-way street, source to target. So yeah, they're both solving a hybrid problem, but for totally different end goals.
So, with those different architectures come very different strengths and philosophies. And this is the important part, because it's not about which one is better, it's about which one is the right tool for your specific job.
Let's boil it down. AWS Storage Gateway's strength is being that versatile bridge. That local cache is a game changer for performance, making it a permanent part of your setup. It's for when you're going to be living in a hybrid world for a while. Azure Storage Mover, on the other hand, is the migration specialist. It's a purpose-built tool that does one thing incredibly well. It moves your files into Azure, making sure all the important stuff like timestamps comes along for the ride. One is for living together, the other is for moving out.
Now, looking at Azure Storage Mover, it's important to understand its scope. And these aren't limitations. They're actually design choices. It's built just for migration. not for ongoing integration. So after the move, if you need to do more complex stuff, you'd use other tools like Azure Data Factory. By keeping it this focused, Azure makes it a really simple, clean tool for that one specific task.
So, if there's one thing you remember from all of this, let it be this simple analogy. One is a translator for a continuous conversation. The other is a specialist for a one-time relocation. AWS Storage Gateway is that always-on interpreter, keeping the conversation flowing. Azure Storage Mover is that expert moving crew you call when it's time to pack up and move.
And that really brings us to the final question you need to ask yourself. It's not about comparing feature lists. It's about your strategy. Is your goal to build a permanent bridge for a long-term hybrid world, or is it to make a clean one-way move to the cloud? Once you answer that, you'll know exactly which of these tools is the right fit for you.